Hi everybody, I hope you guys are doing well. On the last class, on Tuesday, we started reading Charlotte's Web finally, and we read chapters 1 and 2. I know it was kind of a lot. I got a little carried away. I was too excited. I apologize. So today we're only going to read one chapter, I promise. We're only going to read chapter 3. So grab your novel and open it on chapter 3. And chapters 1 and 2, basically, it's what happens with every story. We got to meet our characters. Our main characters were Wilbur, or R, because they're alive in the book, in the story. So we got to meet Wilbur and Fern, and a little bit of the farm. All right. So I don't want to give out a lot, but in this next chapter, we kind of start meeting some of the animals in the farm that live in the farm, like Wilbur. Remember, in the second chapter, unfortunately, well, in the first chapter, just to do a quick recap, in the first chapter, we have this little girl who lives with her father and her mother, and her father's going to go kill a runt pig, which is a small pig, and she stops him. Long story short, she keeps the pig, starts feeding him and taking care of him, and they spend a lot of time together, but he starts getting big and eating too much. I mean, after all, he's a pig. And so her father wants to sell him, but she doesn't want to because she wants to keep it. Fern, that's our hero of the story. She wants to feed him and she wants to keep him. And so her mom comes up with the idea of selling it to her Uncle Homer and Aunt Edith, who have a farm. They're the Zuckermans, and they have a farm. So she sells it to her Uncle Homer, and so Wilbur starts living in the farm, and Fern, we don't know if she's going to keep visiting him or not. So chapter number 3 is titled Escape. Who's going to escape, or what's going to happen? Let's find out. Let's dig in and let's start reading. Follow the reading with me. All right. The barn was very large. It was very old. It smelled of hay and it smelled of manure. Just in case you don't know, manure is, well, poop. It smelled of the perspiration of tired horses and the wonderful sweet breath of patient cows. It often had a sort of peaceful smell, as though nothing bad could happen ever again in the world. It smelled of grain and of harness dressing and of axle grease and of rubber boots and of new rope. And whenever the cat was given a fish head to eat, the barn would smell of fish. But mostly it smelled of hay, for there was always hay in the great loft up overhead. And there was always hay being pitched down to the cows and the horses and the sheep. The barn was pleasantly warm in winter when the animals spent most of their time indoors, and it was pleasantly cool in summer when the big doors stood wide open to the breeze. The barn had stalls on the main floor for the work horses, tie-ups on the main floor for the cows, a sheep fold down below for the sheep, a pig pen down below for Wilbur, and it was full of all sorts of things that you find in barns: ladders, escaleras, grindstones, pitchforks, monkey wrenches, scythes, lawn mowers, snow shovels, axe handles, milk pails, water buckets, empty grain sacks, and rusty rat traps. It was the kind of barn that swallows like to build their nests in. It was the kind of barn that children like to play in. And the whole thing was owned by Fern's uncle, Mr. Homer L. Zuckerman. Wilbur's new home was in the lower part of the barn, directly underneath the cows. Mr. Zuckerman knew that a manure pile is a good place to keep a young pig. Pigs need warmth, and it was warm and comfortable down there in the barn cellar on the south side. Fern came almost every day to visit him. Remember that there was a question at the end of chapter 2 in the page that I gave you, if you think that Fern would visit him again? Well, yes, she does. She found an old milking stool that had been discarded, and she placed the stool in the sheepfold next to Wilbur's pan. Here she sat quietly during the long afternoons, thinking and listening and watching Wilbur. The sheep soon got to know her and trust her. So did the geese who lived with the sheep. All the animals trusted her. She was so quiet and friendly. Mr. Zuckerman did not allow her to take Wilbur out, and he did not allow her to get into the pig pan. So she was just able to sit down and watch him like we see here. All the animals trusted her. Oh, wait. Yes, so did the geese who lived with the sheep. All the animals trusted her. She was so quiet and friendly. Mr. Zuckerman did not allow her to take Wilbur out, and he did not allow her to get into the pig pan. But he told Fern that she could sit on the stool and watch Wilbur as long as she wanted to. It made her happy just to be near the pig, and it made Wilbur happy to know that she was sitting there right outside his pan. But he never had any fun. No walks, no rides, no swims like he did before. One afternoon in June, when Wilbur was almost 2 months old, he wandered out into the small yard outside the barn. Fern had not arrived for her usual visit. Wilbur stood in the sun, feeling lonely and bored. "There's never anything to do around here," he thought. He walked slowly to his food trap and sniffed to see if anything had been overlooked at lunch. He found a small strip of potato skin and ate it. His back itched, so he leaned against the fence and rubbed against the boards. When he tired of this, he walked indoors, climbed on the top of the manure pile, and sat down. He didn't feel like going to sleep. He didn't feel like digging. He was tired of standing still, tired of lying down. "I'm less than 2 months old, and I'm tired of living," he said. He walked out to the yard again. "When I'm out here," he said, "there's no place to go but in. When I'm indoors, there's no place to go but out in the yard." "That's where you're wrong, my friend, said a voice. Wilbur looked through the fence and saw the goose standing there. "You don't have to stay in that dirty little yard," said the goose, who talked rather fast. "One of the boards is loose. Push on it. Push on it and come out." "What?" said Wilbur. "Say it's for..." At the risk of repeating myself," said the goose, "I suggest you come on out now. It's wonderful out here." "Did you say a board was loose?" That I did, said the goose. Wilbur walked up to the fence and saw that the goose was right. One board was loose. He put his head down, shut his eyes, and pushed. The board gave way. In a minute, he had squeezed through the fence and was standing in the long grass outside his yard. The goose chuckled. "Free?" she asked. "I like it," said Wilbur. "That is, I guess I like it." Actually, Wilbur felt queer to be outside his fence with nothing between him and the big world. "Where do you think I'd better go?" Anywhere you like, said the goose. "Go down through the orchard, root up the sod, go down through the garden, dig up the radishes, root up everything, eat grass, look for corn, look for oats, run all over, skip and dance, jump and prance, go down through the orchard and stroll in the woods. The world is a wonderful place when you're young." "I can see that," replied Wilbur. He gave a jump in the air, twirled, ran a few steps, stopped, looked all around, sniffed the smells of the afternoon, and then set off walking down through the orchard, pausing in the shade of an apple tree. He began pushing, digging, and rooting. He felt very happy. He had plowed up quite a piece of ground before I to see him. She saw him, Mrs. Suckerman. She saw him from the kitchen